They don't tell you the contract feels like a sentence. Edo, Japan 1700 something. You were sold before you understood what debt meant, a signature traded for rice money your parents needed. You were 12, maybe 13. Old enough to bow, too young to say no. Now you belong to the Yoshiwara house. The men outside call it a pleasure district. Inside, it's a factory that turns girls into products dressed in silk. Your name isn't yours anymore. They give you a new one that sounds expensive. Your body isn't yours either. It's an asset on a ledger, polished, painted, and rented by the hour. The first lesson is obedience. Smile when men speak to you, even if your jaw is tired. The second is endurance. Never say no to men, even when your ribs beg you to. You scrub the floors in silence while the older courtesans glide past, faces pale as porcelain, feet balanced on sandals like stilts. Their smiles are so practiced they look carved. You think they're goddesses. Later, you learn they're prisoners wearing crowns made of pins. And here's the part nobody warned you about. You're not just selling your body. You're selling a fantasy of perfection that never sleeps. Training starts before sunrise. Bow until your back spasms. Walk in figure 8 steps until your calves shake. Learn the shamisen, the poems, the games, everything needed to entertain men who can buy your time, but never your freedom. They tell you to move like mist and speak like water. What they mean is, don't make trouble. You eat when told. You sleep when allowed. You laugh when commanded. At night, you hear girls crying in the next room, muffled, rhythmic, like waves breaking against paper walls. No one comforts them. Tomorrow they'll smile again. That's part of the job. They say the Oiran are the highest rank, elite courtesans, masters of art and conversation. But under the hairpins and perfume, it's still labor, endless, punishing, intimate labor sold as beauty. The men see fantasy. You see bookkeeping. Every compliment is another debt you'll never clear. You start to find humor in it. When a drunk merchant calls you divine, you whisper to the Komoro, even the gods get paid better. She snorts, and for a second you both remember you're human. Then the madam hears the laughter and snaps her fan. One sound, and the moment's gone. By the time you're dressed for the evening, 20 kilos of silk pressing on your ribs, makeup sealing your face like plaster, you understand the real trick of this place. It's not seduction, it's survival. The lamps flicker, the corridor hums, and somewhere a bell rings for the next client. You lift your chin, fix your smile, and walk toward him, one perfect step after another, pretending it's your choice. If you're still here, you probably like your history raw, not the museum glass version. Hit like and subscribe. We've got more stories that don't blink. Midnight. The air is thick with perfume and sweat, the smell of men who pay to forget their wives. You've poured enough sake to drown a village. Your smile hurts, your cheeks tremble, but you keep it there. The house finds you if a customer thinks you're tired. Men laugh too loud, spit rice when they talk. They call you refined, artful, grace itself. You call it what it is, performing obedience. They think they're buying affection. What they're really buying is your silence. The room glitters, lacquered trays, gold thread kimonos, candlelight. But it's a stage, not a paradise. Behind the screens, girls wait their turn, fixing hairpins with hands that shake. Everyone here is replaceable. Everyone knows it. When the night drags, you start playing small games to keep your mind alive. You count how many times a patron repeats the same boast. You imagine billing him extra for every lie. You smile just enough to make him think he's special. He isn't. None of them are. Then, once in a while, something almost human leaks through. A samurai recites a poem about autumn rain, and for a heartbeat, it's beautiful. You nod, pretend you're moved, but inside you feel a sting. You used to write like that. Before you were sold, before your handwriting became part of the act. Your body aches from the layers of silk, 20 kilos pressing on your ribs, glitter carving your feet. When you sit, it's not rest. It's calculation, How to shift weight without wrinkling fabric that costs more than your freedom. You drink tea laced with sake to numb your stomach. You keep talking, always talking. The younger girls, Kumuro, fetch trays and watch you like you're royalty. You wish they could see the iron bars under the silk. One slips you a leftover sweet and whispers, for luck. You eat it fast, the sugar sharp and real, and for 5 seconds you feel alive. Then the madam sees the crumb on your lip and smacks you hard enough to leave a mark. No food before service, she says. You bow. You thank her. That's the rule. You think about escape sometimes. You picture the street beyond the lanterns, the river, the dark. Then you remember the guards, the debt, the house that owns your name. No one runs from Yoshiwara. You just vanish differently, sickness, age, despair. But still, you find ways to laugh. When a client slurs, "You must love me," you answer, "Only as much as the next rich manual." He laughs, not realizing you mean it. Humor is your last weapon, sharp, quiet, invisible. When the drums call dawn, you remove the ornaments one by one. Each clink of metal feels like counting years you won't get back. You look at your reflection, white paint cracking, eyes red, and whisper, "At least the mask gets to rest." Then you sleep for a few hours, because in this house, even dreams are rented. Morning in Yoshiwara doesn't feel like morning, it feels like a hangover dressed in sunlight. Paper screens glow gold, but no one looks rested. You move slow, careful not to wake the other girls sprawled like broken dolls after the night's parade. Their hairpins lie scattered across the tatami like tiny weapons that lost their fight. You sit by the window, peel off the last traces of paint, and watch a vendor roll his cart through the alley below. Fresh dumplings, steam culling into the cold air. For a moment, you can almost smell them. Flour, soy, real food that isn't staged for men. You close your eyes, inhale the ghost of it. That's breakfast. That's freedom, pretending long enough for your stomach to believe it. The house bell rings. Time to play beautiful again. Your hairdresser yanks your head back so hard your neck cracks. "Hold still," she says. You joke. "If I die mid-bun, at least make it symmetrical." She snorts. Small mercy. Laughter here is currency, traded in secret. Later, you join the others in the practice room. Music lessons, posture drills, the endless polishing of illusion. The teacher raps a stick against your wrist when your shamisen slips off beat. You mutter, "I'll apologize to the gods of rhythm." She doesn't laugh. No one does. The soundproof walls swallow humor whole. In the afternoon, a painter arrives to capture your portrait. You sit still while he works, spine straight, eyes soft, mouth half smiling like you've just heard something tragic but elegant. He calls you ethereal. You want to tell him your feet are numb, that your kimono smells like mildew and cheap incense. But you don't. You sit there, perfect, frozen, a living ghost with an hourly rate. After, you wander to the garden behind the brothel. It's small, fenced in, but there's a plum tree that somehow keeps blooming. Petals fall into the pond, tiny pink boats floating nowhere. A child, one of the servants, waves at you through the gate. You wave back, and for a second, you forget who's free and who isn't. Back inside, you find a folded scrap of paper left near your mirror. Poem, clumsy handwriting, probably from that soft-spoken patron again. Even the moon envies your light. You snort, tell the moon she can have it. But you tuck the paper into your sleeve anyway, not for what it says, but because someone, somewhere, remembered you exist. You light a candle, watch the wax bleed down the stick. Smells faintly of honey. You imagine this is what real life could taste like, small, sweet, temporary. And for one quiet heartbeat, you almost believe that beauty might still save you. The first sign is the cough. Soft at first, easy to hide behind a fan. But in Yoshiwara, nothing weak stays secret for long. Madam notices before you do. She tilts her head, smiles, and says, "Drink more water." Which means don't die where customers can see it. You keep working. You always do. Paint hides the pallor. Rice wine dulls the ache. You start to wonder which will kill you first, the sickness or pretending not to have it. Then there's him. A regular patron, soft-spoken, polite, not like the others. He listens. He even asks questions no one ever does. Do you miss your home? You almost forget to lie. For a moment, you let him believe he's saving you. For a moment, you almost believe it too. He promises to buy out your contract. You know the promise. Every girl here has heard it. But you still tuck the words away like treasure, because false hope is still warmer than none. You even let yourself imagine what freedom smells like. Rain, dirt, rice cooking in a real kitchen. Next week, he doesn't come back. Of course he didn't. Maybe he got bored. Maybe he sobered up. Maybe his wife found out. Doesn't matter. Men like him visit once to feel virtuous and leave before it costs them anything. You joke about it with the other girls. He said he'd free me. From what? Your sanity. You both laugh too hard, like laughter itself might be contagious. House reminds you, clients don't owe you dreams. You bow, say yes, keep working. The nights start to blur. You forget names, faces, promises. Everyone smells like smoke and lies. Sometimes, mid-conversation, you drift, your mind stepping outside your body, watching the scene from above. You look at yourself, powdered, smiling, dead behind the eyes, and think, who even is that? One evening, a customer slaps you for not laughing fast enough at his joke. You don't flinch. You just stare at him until he looks away. The madam praises you later for keeping composure. You think about the word compose. Like music, like a corpse. You wonder if anyone's noticed the difference. You still teach the younger girls, show them how to fold a kimono properly, how to talk without sounding desperate. You warn them not to trust a man who talks about destiny. You say it like a joke, but they nod, dead serious. They'll learn soon enough. At night, you sneak to the garden again. Plum blossoms are gone now, just bare branches clawing at the fog. Pond stinks, stagnant, green with rot. You stare into it and see your reflection ripple and twist. For a second, you don't recognize yourself. That's the mercy, not knowing. When you return, the madam stops you in the hall. There's a new girl coming tomorrow, she says. Young, pretty. Maybe she'll learn from you. You smile. Or maybe she'll replace me. She laughs, thinking you're joking. You laugh too, because what else can you do? That night, you dream of the gate again, open, unguarded, moonlight spilling through. You run for it, faster than you ever have. Just before you reach it, you wake up. The pillow's damp. Your chest burns. You cough hard. Red stains the sleeve of your night robe. You stare at it for a long time. Then you wipe it away. There's work tomorrow. There's always work tomorrow. You whisper, at least the gods don't charge rent, and let yourself laugh low, broken, and real. You don't remember the last night you worked. You only remember the sound, drums in the street, the parade outside the red light gate. Lanterns swing like drunk fireflies. You were supposed to walk in it. The Oiran procession, the height of glamour. Layers of silk stacked like armor, servants trailing behind like shadows. You thought, maybe this is what dying beautifully looks like. The other girls helped you dress. Someone tied your obi, someone fixed the wig, someone muttered that your lips looked pale. You told them, good. Ghosts are in season. They laughed, but quietly, half afraid you meant it. The weight of the costume nearly folded you in half. Every step felt like dragging your bones through honey. Crowds lined the streets, cheering, leering, pointing. They called your name like you were a saint, not a slave in silk. You smiled anyway. The madam was watching. By the time you reached the corner, your vision blurred. Colors smeared together, gold, red, black, all the shades of captivity. The crowd still clapped, but it sounded far away, like applause for someone else. You remember thinking, if I fall, make it look graceful. You did fall. They said later it looked like part of the act. Of course it did. Everything here is performance, even collapse. When you woke up, you were in your room. The madam sat nearby counting coins. You scared the patrons, she said. Don't do that again. You nodded, like you could promise not to die. Days blurred. The fever climbed. The air tasted like metal. The doctor came once, took one look, and left without charging. That's when you knew. The girls visited one by one. Some brought trinkets, some brought lies. One whispered, "You'll get better." You laughed. From what? Life? At night, you asked for your shamisen. The strings were out of tune, but you played anyway, slow, cracked notes that filled the room like ghosts coming home. A song about spring. The irony wasn't lost on you. When the music stopped, so did the pretending. The makeup wiped clean, the voice gone flat. No customers, no contracts, no titles, just a girl who had been too expensive to save. You looked toward the shuttered window and said, "If the gods are watching, they owe me a drink." And for the first time in years, you felt something like peace. Not hope, peace. The kind that comes when there's nothing left to lose. The house didn't stop when you died. Why would it? The bell still rang, the perfume still burned, and the madam still barked about profit margins like nothing happened. They said you retired. That's the word they use when the body stops moving. Your things were cleared by afternoon. Hairpins divided, kimono sold off, poems burned. Someone joked that you'd haunt the place. Someone else said you couldn't afford to. And maybe they were right. You're not the kind of ghost that rattles doors or screams for justice. You're the kind that lingers in the air, in the powder, the sweat, the fake laughter echoing down the hall. When a new girl paints her lips too red, that's you. When she looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize the face, that's you too. Outside, Yoshiwara keeps spinning. Men still come chasing dreams they can buy by the hour. They kneel at painted feet, call it love, and go home to wives who never ask where the money went. The same lines, the same music, just different girls taking turns pretending it's worth it. Sometimes, one of them looks up at the ceiling after a long night and whispers a prayer. You almost want to answer. But what would you say? The gods didn't help me. Try someone else. The streets have changed. The lanterns are brighter now, the walls thinner, but the rules haven't aged a day. Rule number 1, someone always owns your beauty. Rule number 2, when you're no longer useful, they'll call you free. You laugh when you think about it, a dry, cracked sound that belongs to no one. Freedom was never the opposite of this life. It was just another price tag you couldn't pay. And yet, sometimes, on spring nights, you catch a whiff of plum blossoms drifting over the rooftops. That old tree, still blooming in the garden. You remember sitting under it, hair undone, pretending the wind meant something. The petals fall the same way they always did, soft, silent, gone before anyone notices. That's your kind of afterlife. Not heaven, not hell, just the quiet space between one performance and the next. Somewhere, another Oiran is painting her face for the evening. She's 20, maybe younger. Her hands tremble, but she'll steady them soon enough. She'll walk out, smile, bow, and say the same words you once did. And when the men call her beautiful, she'll think, just for a second, maybe they mean it. You want to warn her. You really do. But ghosts can't save the living. They can only watch the cycle start again. So you fade, soft as smoke, back into the place that built and buried you. No tears. No drama. Just a voice, yours, whispering through the walls. They still call it pleasure. We always knew it was work. If you made it this far, tell me what you felt. Not what you think. What you felt. Drop it in the comments. And if you want more of this kind of honesty, like the video. It tells the algorithm someone still cares about the real parts of history.